Welcome to Nevertheless, a show dedicated to organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. Today, you will discover how to discern your essence and live powerful.
Hello and welcome to the Nevertheless show. It's a bright, sunny afternoon in Lagos, Nigeria as I record this. How have you been? How did you do in trimming your fat? Last week we were looking at coming into a new year, finishing what it was we did last year instead of jumping into new things. But more importantly, we were saying that we need to make sure that our mindsets are right. We have taken into cognizance the things that are important so that we don't go jumping all around the place, making fresh plans when the old ones from last year and probably or possibly the year before are still hanging over our heads. Talked about the fact that we need to walk guilt-free and just enjoy the journey as we go along. My name is Bidemi Mark-Mordi. This is the Nevertheless show. Where are you listening in from today and what it is that you're doing? It's already the second week of January is actually just like passed on and we're thinking, oh, where did the days go? One of the things that has characterized this month for me so far is the intensity of it. It's so busy. Everything is coming so rapidly that I'm wondering if we continue at this speed, how fast it might take before one will burn out. Anyhow, today we've moved on to new things and like I mentioned last week, I'm going to take a few weeks, maybe a couple of weeks or maybe 3 weeks to take a look at the issue of goal setting because it's still early days in the year and a lot of us are still looking at their goals. And I think that personally I prefer to have set my goals by the turn of the year. But it's okay if you're just trying to put pen to paper to make sure that you have scientific goals that will work for you in 2016. I want us to take into consideration a few things in this podcast and subsequent ones so that when we're setting our goals, we make it an intelligent exercise. When we come back, I'll be looking at something I have called the push goal because goal setting is not something you just do. Goal setting is something you take time to think through before you do. Like I said, this is a Nevertheless show and it's always a pleasure to have you here. I'll be right back.
In a world filled with many fears and discouragements, life often becomes a burden. For those who know the way, life's just simple. Don't worry, you're not alone on this life's journey as Bidemi shares powerful insights and principles from her everyday work and life experiences in her book, Nevertheless. Nevertheless is a book designed to encourage and equip you to face life with courage, hope, and determination. Get a copy of Nevertheless from a bookstore near you or call 234-813-360-2883 or send an email to bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com to place your order now. I guarantee you will make it nevertheless.
Welcome back to the show. I believe that by now you know that this show is dedicated to organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. What that means is those who are leading from their DNA, who are using what God has gifted them with to make something of themselves, but more importantly, to replenish their earth. That's who this show is for. And I've loved your feedback. Stella, a shout out to you all the way in Zurich, Switzerland. Thank you for your comments and all the things that you say. It's glad to have you back. I hope you're back to your Monday tonic, nevertheless, and I hope you're learning. Anyhow, I said that today we'll be looking at the push goal. What is the push goal and why is it necessary? Before I go into what a push goal is and why it is necessary that everyone in setting their goals takes the time out to identify their push goal first. It is because you need to identify a push goal just simply because a lot of us set goals. We do a list of 20 goals, 30 goals, 10 goals, 5 goals, and then we find find out that everybody begins with the easiest one. And the issue with the easiest goal is that it gives you speed. You go through maybe the first 3 goals. If you're going from the least challenging to the most challenging, you find out that you go rapidly through the times or through the process, and before you know what is happening, you have 3 goals in your bag. But what I find is most of us never start out with the goal that is what I call the big, hairy, audacious goal. That goal that scares you. Just the thought of it makes you sweat. That's what I call a push goal. What is that one goal that when you finish doing, every other thing on your list will just be a walkover? What is that goal that is most capital intensive on your list? What is that goal that will generate the greatest amount of reward and fulfillment at the end of it? I find that if I'm requiring motivation, because I don't know how people do it. Most people get their motivation from different sources. I get motivation mostly from accomplishing something. So if I want to, in 2016, set 10 goals for my life and for all the things that I do, and I'm determined to see them through, what I usually would want to start with in January is the most difficult of them by my perception. The one that probably is most capital intensive, but usually also the one that is most rewarding. So this year we have different things we're doing, but we picked one. And the idea for this year for me is not so much the reward financially all at once that I'm getting from that goal. There is that goal that is going to elevate what it is that I'm doing and put us on another level, higher than what we used to do in previous years. So what's a push goal? A push goal is that big, like I said, big, hairy, audacious goal. The one goal on your list that accomplishing it will keep you motivated throughout your year. That's the goal. That's the goal that when you are done with, if you are able to go through it and kick off on it and maybe bring it to a particular level by the end of the first quarter of the year, you just go on a roll. In 2015, I did not have a push goal, and it reflected upon the things that I accomplished in that year. But in 2014, I started the year with a push goal, and it was like running on steroids. By the time I finished that goal, I had so much energy just from the satisfaction that I finished that goal, that I kept walking through the other goals. I kept just going through the other goals because in my mind it was the most challenging, and pulling it off just made every other thing like small fry to me. So I'm saying that your push goal is that goal that of all the things you want to do this year is the most massive. It's the most difficult to get through. It's the most capital intensive, which means it will go up more money, but it's also the most rewarding. You want to make sure that that is the one goal that is in a league of its own and ahead of all the other goals. When I come back, I'll tell you why the push goal is important, and I'll give you a story from the Bible that backs up the fact that, smart people and great leaders have always identified a push goal so that whatever it is that they have set out to achieve for the year, they are able to get it done. Now, what I recognize is that for some people, the push goal is not so much about the size as it is about the process. Like I said, don't go anywhere. When I come back, I'll continue to talk about setting your goals, beginning with a push goal.
Are you frustrated and tired of life? Do you feel trapped in life's maze and don't seem to find your way? Or are you passionate about your purpose and destiny and want to find out more? Then get a copy of DNA. DNA, Destiny Navigational Application, is a book written by Bidemi Mark-Mordi, where she coaches you to distill the answer to the cry of purpose, mandate, and significance. She teaches you how to discern your essence, discover your God-given mandate, deploy power, and demonstrate dominion. Get a copy of Destiny Navigational Application from any bookstore near you or call 234-813-360-2883 or send an email to bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com to place your order now.
It's great to be back. It's still the Nevertheless Show, and my name is Bidemi Mark-Mordi. Why do you need a push goal? You need a push goal because the push goal has what is called a domino effect. What is a domino effect? This is a dictionary definition of a domino effect. It is the cumulative effect produced when one event sets off a chain of similar events. I'll take that again, and I'll take it a lot more slowly. I said that the domino effect is the cumulative effect produced when one event sets off a chain of similar events. So what is it that you want to achieve this year? We are all pushing or going after success, and we're going after it hard. Now we want to be able to, at the end of 2016, say, I fought a good fight. I gave it my all. And you want to look at the gains of all that you've done and be able to pat yourself in the back and say, you did well this year. We all are pushing for success. We are all chasing after success, whatever success means to you. So when I say that the push goal has a domino effect, the success, the high that you get out of finishing your push goal or out of accomplishing your push goal has that power to help you keep going and going and going on all the other goals that you have set for yourself for the year. So you want the push goal, you want to identify a push goal because that push goal has within it the capacity to keep you going without stopping. It has the capacity for you to just keep achieving because your psyche, the psychology of your person tells you that you had just conquered a really high or difficult demon or whatever. And because of that, you are able to move on to the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. Now, if you're a small business like mine and you want to set goals for your year, you want to make sure that your push goal is your most capital intensive. If, for instance, you set a 50 million naira goal or thereabout as your push goal, and by April, May, you had finished that, I can assure you that the 5 million naira goal, the 10 million, anything less than that amount of money or process would just be a walkover for you. So again, the push goal is what enables you to be able to walk over the other goals. Not that you will not exert energy or expend resources. What it just means is that because you've slain something bigger, you are just able to keep going. I'll give you one quick example before I go to my main story. When David came and stood in front of Goliath, where was he drawing his impetus from? What was his motivation to come before King Saul and say, I can take this guy? His motivation came from the fact that he had single-handedly fought a bear with his bare hands and turned it to pieces. And he had done that exact same thing with a lion. So I'm sure David was looking at it and was saying to himself, if I fought a lion and had prevailed, which is an animal and doesn't think, the lion only thinks I've found meat in front of me and I need to eat, this is food. And yet David was able to prevail. I think David was saying to himself, if I could deal with a lion with my bare hands, I definitely can take Goliath with a sling. And that was exactly what happened. I don't know whether there are chemicals to it, I don't know the science of it, but I know that when you achieve something really that initially was really difficult for you, it tends to galvanize you to be able to keep doing all the other things. That's why every time you want to do something or you want to step into new territory, the first time is the hardest time. The moment you finish with that first time and you have it in the bag, I just believe that your body system says to you, you've done it before, you can do it again. Now in the Bible, there is a man called Nehemiah. You find his story in the book of Nehemiah, obviously. And Nehemiah was a slave that had been taken from Israel to Babylon, and he had read the book, and the book had said that they will be in slavery for, I think, 70 years or thereabout. And then after that, they will return home. But in the book that he read, he was also said that at some point, after a number of years, God made a promise that he will send people out of exile back to Jerusalem to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. And so Nehemiah had that in his mind. So I want to imagine that, okay, well, it may not have been the beginning of the year like we have, but Nehemiah at some point took a look at it and said, look, if God said he would use someone to do this, I believe that I can get it done. Now, building the walls of Jerusalem, if you read the story, you will find out was the least of Nehemiah's problem. Nehemiah's big, hairy, audacious goal was to be able to get the king in Babylon at the time to give him leave to go and get it done. So Nehemiah must have thought about it. He thought about it for a long time. And the more he thought about the fact that the walls of Jerusalem were broken down, the Bible says that the more Nehemiah became sad, that ultimately he couldn't conceal his countenance anymore. Now here's the thing about Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a cupbearer for this king. And the tradition, as I hear it at that point, was that if you walked in the palace of the king, you shouldn't be sad. It could be the reason that your head was taken off your shoulders. But Nehemiah came into the presence of the king one day, and his countenance was down. The king took one look at him and said to him, "What is it that ails you?" But here's the thing, before Nehemiah got to this point, he had been worried about this goal. How will I rebuild the walls of Jerusalem? I have a feeling that he had a strategy, a session with maybe a few of his friends. I have a feeling that he had been praying about it. Actually, the Bible actually said that he prayed, but more than that, Nehemiah fasted. So when we're talking about push goals, you want to begin by preparing yourself mentally and spiritually, because that's what I would do. This is January, and all the things that I have outlined to do for this year, or that the Lord is laid in my heart to do this year, I am beginning with a fast, because I want to make sure that I am at the right place spiritually to be able to take these things that I want to take, to be able to tackle these things that God has asked me to tackle this year. So Nehemiah went on a fast, and after he had fasted and prayed, he came into the king, and the king saw his countenance and asked him what the problem was. And he said to the king, "The walls of Jerusalem, my city, are in ruins, and I really would like to go back and build it." Now, aside from the risk that Nehemiah had to face to ask the king, or to show his sad countenance to the king, and to even be able to say to the king, "I have an agenda." You know, a slave, he's a slave in Babylon, and here he was telling the king, "I have a plan, I have an agenda, I'd like to go back to Jerusalem and rebuild the wall." That was massive. But because Nehemiah had prayed and he had fasted and he stepped out, he was able to, the king took one look at him and said, "Okay, what is it that you need?" I'm retelling the story loosely. If you want to understand it properly, maybe you need to read the book of Nehemiah. Just read through the entire book and you will catch the drift of this story. So by the time Nehemiah says to the king, "I want to go," and the king says, "What do you need?" Nehemiah went back and he started to do a list. He put together a list of what he needed. He put together, a letter of authorization to ask the different provinces under Babylon that the king should order them to give him wood and materials that he needs to go and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. The question I need to ask you, and you need to find out, is, what did Nehemiah pray? Nehemiah prayed and asked for favor. In praying and asked for favor, the king said to him, "Whatever you want." So Nehemiah went back and made a list. The reason why we need push goals is that push goals help you to live your life by priorities. That's the first reason you need a push goal. The second, actually, aside from the fact that it has a domino effect, that is the capacity to keep you galvanized and motivated to push through all the other things that you need to do. The push goals also help you align your life by the priorities that you live by. So it's not, you don't just wake up and say, "Okay, I want to do 15 things," and you just pick one. It helps you to scientifically determine which one you need to do at a particular time. So Nehemiah made a list. He was putting his dream, he was outlining his dream by priority. Then after he did that, he took it to the king, complete with the letter asking the king to put his seal to ask other provinces to give him wood and building materials that he would take back to Jerusalem to build. That was Nehemiah putting together a strategy. And what that helps you do is that it helps you to work more effectively. It becomes really effective. It just helps you work more effectively because you've thought it through and you're putting everything in boxes, and you label them, you've dated them, you've done all of, I think that every goal should be SMART R. It should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be achievable, it should be realistic, it should be time bound, you should be enthusiastic about it, and it should be rewarding. So once you do it like that, you are able to live your life by priorities, you are able to work more effectively, and you are able to work more efficiently. So Nehemiah went through all of this, and the king actually granted him everything that he had asked. So you find out that for Nehemiah, going to build the wall actually was not the big task. The biggest task was to be able to approach the king of Babylon and say, "Let me go for a while to build this wall. I promise that I will come back." I mean, he's a slave. What if he didn't come back? He was the king's cupbearer. And then when you take a look at it, Nehemiah already had what I call a cushy job. He didn't need to do any of these things, but he did it. And from that point, Nehemiah was on a roll. Push goals give you the power to live through everything that you have outlined for the year. I said to you that a push goal has the domino effects. And because it comes with, it has a domino effect. All the other things that you have aligned to do, you are able to do them. Let's go back to the story of Nehemiah. By the time Nehemiah got to Jerusalem, and he called a meeting of the elders in Jerusalem and said, I have come so that we might together join hands to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. 3 people arose, Sanballat, Tobias, and some other person, I'm not remembering his name right now. The Bible said they discouraged Nehemiah. They did everything to stop Nehemiah. But I have a feeling that because Nehemiah had scaled the hurdle of talking to the king of Babylon and getting what he wanted, he didn't even pay heed to these men. The Bible said that as they were rebuilding the walls, that these men were right at the foot of the wall, doing everything to distract Nehemiah and his crew. Yet they continued their work. Again, I have a feeling that it's because he had just crossed a hurdle where his head could have been taken off in one day, that he didn't see the danger that Sanballat and his crew or his friends posed to him. At some point while building that wall, even the people that he was working with started to report to him the oppression of their leaders. But because Nehemiah had scaled again the hurdle of dealing with the king of Babylon and the different governors of the provinces on his way back to Jerusalem to build, those things did not faze him. What I'm trying to tell us today is that for all the things you have aligned to do, there is one that is your leverage. Not for anything else, but for your own empowerment, inner strength. There is a particular thing that you can do that will just change this whole thing around for you. So what should you do? Take the time out. Schedule the time and give it 100% attention. Take a pen and a paper. Make a list of all the things that you want to achieve this year. Take a look at the processes and at the costs. And after counting the costs, put at the top of your list the one that is most time consuming, most difficult in process, most expensive to execute, and then start with that one. I can assure you that when you finish that particular goal, the feel good effect just makes running through the others an easy task for you to do. This is still Nevertheless, the show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. I am and always will be Bidemi Mark-Mordi, and I have looked at a push goal today. Don't just set your goals arbitrarily or haphazardly. Begin with a push goal. I'd like to hear from you. Tell me how that is going. You can send me an email, bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com. You can leave me a message on my Facebook page, Bidemi Mark-Mordi, or even here on my site, you can leave a comment, and I promise that I would respond to you as quickly as I can. Till next week when I'll come your way again, never forget that if you discover purpose, you can live a powerful life. God bless you.
Thank you for listening to Nevertheless. For more information and resources, call 0813-360-2883 or send an email to bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com. Don't forget that when you discover your purpose, you will live powerful.